Football, the beautiful game. It's often said to be a great leveler, a sport where talent should rise above all else. But in the heart of the UK, home to one of the most diverse populations in Europe, there's a glaring gap on the pitch. British Asians make up around 9% of the UK population, yet they account for less than 0.5% of professional footballers. But why? The story begins in the post-war years, when large numbers of South Asians from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka migrated to the UK. These communities brought rich cultures, strong family values and a deep love for sport. But football wasn't always the sport of choice. Cricket reigned supreme in many households, a familiar pastime from home. But that wasn't the only reason young British Asians didn't see the pitch. For many British Asian families, football wasn't seen as a viable career path. The risks were too high. Education was the priority. British Asian parents pushed their children to become things such as doctors, lawyers and surgeons, so didn't encourage them to take part in sport. Or when they did, it was sports such as swimming and karate. This was because the parents were worried about the injuries that can occur from playing football and didn't want them to get hurt. Social segregation, lack of community outreach by clubs, and overt racism made football seem inaccessible, or worse, hostile. Even when kids showed promising football ability, the pathway wasn't always open. Coaches, whether knowingly or not, often overlooked Asian players, labeling them as not physical enough, lacking aggression, or just not fitting the mold. Stereotypes that had nothing to do with skill, but to do with perception. But it goes deeper than culture or ambition. The structure of football itself plays a role. Talent ID systems, heavily reliant on informal networks and local scouts, often miss talent that exists outside traditional pipelines. Asian communities, especially in inner cities or lower-income areas, often lack access to elite academies. There's also underrepresentation in coaching staff, management, and even in the boardrooms, meaning fewer advocates to push for inclusivity from within. Let's not forget the discrimination players have faced: racial abuse from fans, exclusionary environments in the locker room, or even microaggressions that slowly wear away at self-belief. However, there have been trailblazers. Zesh Rehman became the first British Asian to start a Premier League game. Hamza Choudhury proudly wears his Bengali heritage on his sleeve while representing Leicester City at the highest level. Yan Danda has spoken out about racism in the game, but the fact that we can count them on one hand, in a sport with nearly 4,000 professionals, says everything. Things are starting to change. Initiatives such as Asian-only teams and leagues have been created to give British Asians the opportunity to play at a good level. But the problem with this is scouts just completely ignore these teams and leagues, meaning any good talents just get overlooked. Initiatives from the FA and the Premier League are starting to push for more diversity. Grassroots programs like the Zesh Rehman Foundation and Kick It Out are making inroads. More British Asian parents are supporting their children's football dreams. Representation, however small, is starting to inspire the next generation. And perhaps most importantly, the conversation is happening. Clubs are being held accountable. Visibility is being demanded, not requested. The question is no longer if British Asians can make it in football. It's whether the system will evolve fast enough to let them in. British Asians aren't absent from football because of a lack of passion, talent or work ethic. They're missing because the doors have long been half closed, held shut by decades of cultural misunderstanding, systemic bias, and institutional neglect. But change is possible, and it's already begun. The pitch should reflect the nation that surrounds it, and one day soon it just might.